Hello everyone, hello to our Facebook audience. Welcome, my name is Dayan and this is the 4th episode of our Hong Kah North Go Green Facebook Live session. And I'm glad that you are here with us this morning because we'll be having an eco-dialogue with our advisor and our guest, the chairperson of WAMRIS. But then, if you had missed out the first 3 episodes of our Hong Kah North Go Green workshops, the first one being the Ping Shi Kitchen, Chef Lee cooking 2 dishes of nutritious vegetarian and non-vegetarian food with your leftovers. Please go down to our Facebook page and watch the videos. We have a post with all the links out there. We are on YouTube already. Now the second episode, we actually had teacher Susan to teach us how to upcycle, and behind me right now, you can see many of these old t-shirts that have been repurposed for the purpose of making bracelets for our masks, like the one I'm wearing, the mask, that we can use it to give as gifts for Christmas. And if you would like to learn how to make maybe, a grocery bag with old t-shirts, put it in the comment section right now and let us know that you want teacher Susan to teach us on Facebook Live how to make such products next year. We also have necklaces out from our old t-shirts. And we have lots of these sling bags, very popular with the kids nowadays. And of course, even our pillow covers. Would you want to make one? Let us know in the comment section right now. And of course, we have also in the 3rd episode learned from teacher Wendy how to make enzyme cleaners to make your dishwasher cleaners, shampoo, soap, okay? And if you want to learn other eco-friendly workshop to make, for example, maybe handicrafts, paper crafts, or you would like to learn how to make origami, very useful handicrafts for your children at home, let us know in the comment section right now. And of course, give this video a share, a like, a thumbs up, and let all your friends come and join us this morning because I am going to introduce our 2 panel of speakers this morning. So come on, share, like, and let us know. If you have any questions, share with our speakers later on. They will answer your questions. And you can see right now our set. We have all these repurposed wood, even the one at the back. This wooden padlock that normally we will discard it after we have all these curtains that we purchase. But now this is like a fence that we have used it to decorate our set. So that's what you can do at home as well. And even all these repurposed wood that we made our furniture, our shelves, and not forgetting the most important one. This is our Step Up competition. It's the Step Up Sustainability app that we hope all of you can actually download. And if you can see over here right now, I have my handphone with me. Just go to the Play Store for Android phones or your Apple Store for iPhones. Click on the Step Up Sustainability app over here. This is the Step Up Sustainability app. You can just scan this QR code, and we do have the QR code on our Facebook page as well. Then you can always earn points when you recycle. So when you go down to the blue bins, this is for Hong Kah North residents, or anyone living in Jurong, but Hong Kah North residents, you will stand a chance to join our 3-month Hong Kah North Eco Go Green recycling competition. Just need to scan the QR code on the blue bin, and then you will get awards, points that you can redeem to get, for example, Grab vouchers, etc., from our Eco Go Green partners. Okay, so this is the QR code. Don't forget to join us because our competition is still ongoing for the month of December, and we are going to run this competition for 3 months. So do join us. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests for this morning. We have our advisor, Dr. Amy Khor. She's the Senior Minister of State of the Ministry for Sustainability and the Environment and the Ministry of Transport, as well as our special guest for this morning. She's the chairman of WAMRIS, the Waste Management Association and Recycling Association of Singapore, Melissa Tan, PBM. So welcome, Melissa. Welcome, Dr. Khor.
Thank you.
Hello, hi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Let me just take off my mask. First of all, very good morning to one and all. Indeed, I want to thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning for our Eco-Dialogue, the 4th in a series of Hong Kah North Go Green workshops. that we are organizing. Indeed, I want to welcome you to this Eco-Dialogue, which will be on how to build a sustainable Hong Kah North, and in that sense, support the development of a sustainable Singapore. Before we start our online conversations, and I do indeed look forward to having a very meaningful virtual discussion with all of you on sustainability and sustainable development, we want to give you a context and overview of why do we need to adopt sustainable practices, build a sustainable Hong Kah North, a sustainable community, and of course a sustainable Singapore. What can we do as individuals? What can we do as a community in terms of contributing to green practices and the sustainable lifestyle? So let me first of all say that, what sustainable development is all about. Sustainable development really is about development to meet the needs of the present generation, all of us here. But we must do it in a way that will not compromise on the ability of our future generation to also meet their needs. So really it is about using the living conditions, it is about using our resources in such a way that we can continue to meet our needs, but ensure that we do not compromise, do not undermine the stability and the integrity of our natural system, our ecosystem, our resources. Actually, what it means is don't plunder away all your resources, use up everything, use up every piece of land, pollute the environment such that future generations will not be able to enjoy, say, the quality of living we have, for instance, enjoy the resources that we have. And that is the idea of sustainable development. And let me also say that actually Singapore has always been on this sustainable development path. Since independence, this is actually a priority for us. So when we talk about economic growth to improve the lives and livelihoods of Singaporeans, we always do it taking into account environmental protection, balance it, our economic growth with environmental protection, as well as making sure that there is social inclusion. That means to grow so that everybody also benefit from the growth, and not just to benefit a particular segment of society. So this is really about economic growth balanced with environmental sustainability and social inclusion. And in fact, long before people talk about climate change, for instance, we have actually been one of the first countries to put sustainable practice into our development plans, into our policies. For instance, many of the sustainability initiatives we started long ago, now we have reached zero car population growth. And that is about ensuring that we continue to have a good quality environment, good quality air, you reduce pollution from cars and so on. So it's zero car population growth now. We encourage public transport, currently it's at 69%, and we hope to increase this. We have converted most of our power generation, for instance, into using natural gas. Again, that will reduce carbon emissions. And when we develop towns, for instance, whether it's Hong Kah North, Toa Payoh, and so on, when we develop towns, Bukit Batok town, for instance, we always take into account the fact that we will need to have green spaces, green lungs for people to enjoy, nature parks, and so on. So these sustainability initiatives has always been part of our entire planning framework for Singaporeans to benefit from. And indeed, even as we are in the midst of COVID-19 and the priority really is to address and help us overcome COVID-19, sustainable development remains at the core of everything we do. And that's why we need to be able to have a green recovery and address and overcome the challenges of COVID-19. And in fact, if you read the papers this morning or you listen to the news, you'll find that, the UN chief, right, Guterres, he's actually also called on countries to make sustainability, right, to make sustainability a priority. So he asked countries to declare a climate emergency because we need to address climate change. And our Prime Minister has said that we will continue to do our part, do our very best to also contribute to the fight against climate change, but the fight against climate change needs a global response. Everybody, all countries, every individuals have to be involved. So now the second point is about climate change. Environmental sustainability, sustainable development really is about improving our lives, ensuring that we also make sure that the next generation also can, benefit from a good quality environment. And in fact, I think our objective really is to make sure that every generation pass the next generation, allow the next generation to inherit an even better quality environment. If not, then at least the same quality environment that we have, but better still if the next generation always gets something better. And I think that is actually our objective. And why do we need to fight climate change? We are a very small country. In fact, climate change is really, as Prime Minister said, an existential issue. And as a small country, we are even more vulnerable. Some of you may ask if climate change is about the melting ice, in the Arctic, Antarctic. What has that got to do with me? Because it's so far away, and we don't have polar bears and so on. But really, climate change is affecting everybody, and is already affecting everybody now, including Singapore. What are some of the impact of climate change? For instance, our weather, temperature, right, is getting hotter. So the last few years, we have had like the hottest, highest temperature we have seen, in the last decade, second highest temperature, the driest weather. And the forecast is that by 2100, our temperature could rise by another 1 degree. We are already quite hot, so temperature will continue to rise if we don't do anything. The other thing would be sea level. Most of Singapore, if you are not aware, is only about 15 meters above sea level. And the forecast is that mean sea level will rise by 1 meter average. I've got to change the thing. Earlier, I talked about temperature rise. The temperature rise is not 1 degree, but 4.6 degree, up to 4.6 degree, 2100, and mean sea level rise by up to 1 meter in 2100. And like I say, mean sea level, most of the parts of Singapore are about 15 meters. So if it's another up to 1 meter, some parts of Singapore may be inundated, flooded by that time. So we need to take action now. And in fact, you also realize that weather patterns is more intense storm, more intense weather patterns, right? You see flash floods, for instance, very dry, very hot weather, or very strong winds and rain. So these are the reasons why we also need to join in the fight against climate change, and we need to be able to adopt green practices in order to do that. So now let me come to what can the community do? In terms of businesses, in terms of individuals and community, what can we do? Firstly, the government actually has put in place many programs, legislation also, as well as infrastructure to encourage the adoption of green practices. For businesses, there are a lot of grants available for businesses to adopt energy efficient methods, for instance, in their production and in their business practices. There are also, for instance, energy efficient grants, as I've said, available. 3R funds to promote recycling, for instance, and waste minimization. In the community and for individuals, we have recently launched our SG Eco Fund, $50 million Eco Fund, that any individual, any private public sector, as well as NGO organizations could actually apply for to implement environmental projects that will promote environmental sustainability. So in Hong Kah North, last year we launched an eco plan, and in fact just last month we launched the Hong Kah North Go Green movement. And our idea is to put in place programs that will encourage and raise awareness among residents to adopt green practices, for instance, recycling. So last month we actually launched the Step Up for Sustainability Recycling competition. And if you join this, you will download the app and you recycle. And each time you recycle, you actually key in with your handphone, right? Snap a photo with your handphone, you'll be able to get points. The idea is to incentivize and encourage people to recycle more. But beyond that, we also have, for instance, our used books used books program, as well as even food drops donation program that we are actually encouraging. We started last year, and we hope that more residents will join us. We also have had our annual recycling campaign, I think for about the last 20 years already. Every year there is a recycling campaign. We call it Cash for Trash program. We also in the Eco Plan has got Eco Fund for our schools to apply and participate in to promote sustainability programs, and we have got Eco Ambassador and bursary for our primary school students, for them also to get on the sustainability practice lifestyle. Yeah. So these are things that we have done in the community, and this series of workshops is also one of them. So this is actually what we want to do to encourage individuals in Hong Kah North to take up this sustainability challenge and sustainability lifestyle. And I think I want to just stop here and get Melissa also to share greater details about what our green community, our green committee in Hong Kah North has done to promote green practices in Hong Kah North.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khor, for inviting me to your Eco-Dialogue Facebook Live. First of all, let me just briefly explain to you what WOMRAS is all about. WOMRAS is Waste Management Recycling Association of Singapore, where we are made up of all the trade members companies. At the moment, we have about 166 companies that's scattered all over Singapore. WOMRAS has been always supporting Hong Kah North Environment Day since 2001. That was, I think, way before me. By then, I'm still a young girl, you know. So we have been promoting the annual Cash for Trash programs. In fact, over the past few years, we have been explaining the importance and how to recycle from the residents. We showcase the latest recycling technologies to residents, including side loading trucks, smart compactor, food waste digesters, bin sensors. But this year, when we participate with Hong Kah North Green Movement campaign, it's slightly different. This year, we are actually focusing on the Step Up Sustainability app. Because of COVID, we are unable to conduct our annual Cash for Trash program, and hence we actually go towards digital, and we are actually seeking the residents to download the app, and then they can continue to recycle as part of the green movement within the Hong Kah North. And yeah, so basically this is what WOMRA's role, which we have been doing and participating and supporting over the past many years. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe at this point, let's look at some of the questions that is on Facebook Live, and perhaps we can actually take some of the questions, try and answer your questions, or maybe look at some of the feedback and comments that you have. Again, I really want to encourage everyone who is now on Facebook Live to challenge you to adopt these green practices, and also to encourage you to give us your suggestions and views as to how we can do better to encourage residents to adopt green practices, so that we can make Hong Kah North an even more sustainable community that everybody can enjoy. Well, I think the first one, one of the first question I see here is, how do I earn points using the Step Up app? Actually, Malaysia covered this a little bit just now, but maybe I'll ask her to go into a little bit more detail in terms of the competition and what you can get, you know, if you participate in this competition for the next 3 months. Yeah.
Okay, so basically for the residents, the first thing what you need to do is download the app. So once you download the app, which will be showing in your handphone, right? So you need to do the scan. So every time when you bring a bag of recyclables, which could be your bottles, you know, mineral bottles, detergent bottles or books and anything, or newspaper, you can do a scan, take a picture, snap on it, right? And then you are actually able to see what are the CO2 points that you have earned at that bag, from that bag of recyclables, before you can then dispose it into the blue bins. So with the number of the CO2 points, right, then you can continue to accumulate. Then you can then subsequently redeem from some of the merchants that is listed in the app. But within the Hong Kah North competition, right, so we will then collate, apparently according to the app owner, Alba WH Smart City, what they are doing is that they will then accumulate the points that is based on per household. They will be able to generate and to find out who has the greatest, or who during that period of time, for the first month in December, second month in January, the third month in February, to generate the most amount of recyclables items in kilograms. And then subsequently, they will then contact the residents, right, that to notify them that they actually have won a prize. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're going to give prizes, $50 supermarket voucher to the top 10 recyclers, right? Top 10 households with the highest number of CO2 points in Hong Kah North, living in Hong Kah North, for the next 3 months, December, January, and February. And actually, the constituency that has the highest CO2 points, from all the recycling households, at the end of the 3 months would also get a prize donated, right, presented to the RN, so that they can organize, it will help to contribute to help them to organize more programs, environmental, green programs for our Hong Kah North residents. I see another question here. The resident asked, what other Go Green workshops can he or she look forward to? Well, let us know what kind of workshops, green workshops, you would like us to organize for you in the coming months. We are really very happy if we can organize a green workshop every month for a Hong Kah North resident. For instance, as Dayan said, in terms of reusing our old clothes or old t-shirts, for instance, we could have classes, say, for how to use the old t-shirts to make pillow casing, right, or cushion covers, and also to make bags or jewelry, bracelet, necklaces, and so on. And each of these could be a workshop by itself. And if you are interested in that, please let us know. The more people, the workshop, the ideas that has got the highest votes, we will organize that first. That will have priority. So this is one workshop that we can do. Other workshops, for instance, is making terrarium. We could also have talks on nature conservation, for instance, gardening, community gardens. In fact, 2 of our new RNs, West Terra and West Edge, is going to set up community gardens, I think on the rooftop, the multi-story car park rooftop of the precincts there. So you can look forward to that too.
Maybe I just want to echo this. Your waste is actually other people's treasures, and it's also other people's resources. So things that you doesn't want it, you want to discard it. So we could also look at other alternatives by having these green workshops, and to convert your discarded waste into something else, which is a resource for somebody else's.
Yeah, Melissa reminds me that we have been talking about turning trash into treasure. So other people's waste is actually, or your waste can be other people's treasure, and that's why we say trash into treasure. And that's also another reason why we have this trash for grocery program, to show that the old newspaper that you have, the old clothes, actually is of use to other people, and there's value, and then we in exchange give you some grocery to remind people that there is value to all these recyclables. And in fact, in Hong Kah North, what we really want to do, and actually in Singapore, for the ministry, we want to encourage the practice of the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, recycle. So first of all is not recycle, is actually to reduce your consumption, right? reduce consumption, for instance, of food, because there's a lot of food wastage. When you go to the markets, the supermarkets, you should just buy what you need. If you go to the hawker centers, you should also order only what you can finish. And if you can't finish so much rice, please tell the auntie, uncle, don't give me so much rice and noodle because I cannot finish, right? That will help to reduce food waste. And in fact, we have campaigns to reduce food waste. Also, reduce consumption, that's one. Then reuse. For instance, some of our electrical appliances and all that, we can actually repair instead of discarding and buying another one, right? So that is reuse. And then, of course, the last is recycle. So if you use it and then you want to discard it away, instead of discarding it, there are many things which are recyclable, and that ought to be recycled. And we want to encourage this culture of practicing 3 R's. Yeah. So there's another question here about plastic bags, single-use plastic bags used at supermarkets, whether we will ban the use of single-use plastic bags in supermarket. I think the use of single-use plastic bag has actually garnered quite a bit of attention. In some countries, either they charge or some may ban, the use of single-use plastic bag. Now, in Singapore, I think unlike many countries, we incinerate all our waste. So any waste that is properly discarded, including if it's a single-use plastic bag and it's already contaminated and then it's thrown away, it will be incinerated. So unlike many countries, we don't have this issue where the plastic bag, the used plastic bag is buried directly in the landfill, and then it takes a long time, cannot biodegrade, and it may make its way into the waterways and so on, and then it creates problem, for the living organisms as well as fishes and so on in the sea, right? We have a very good waste management and collection system. We minimize the amount of any waste that actually gets into our waterways, and of course, like I say, we actually incinerate all waste. But having said that, we do want, as I've said earlier, to reduce the excessive consumption of everything, including disposables. Disposables will include single-use plastic bag, but it's not just single-use plastic bag, it's everything, right? Paper bags, anything that is disposable, we want to also reduce the consumption, because every disposable needs resources and energy to make, and there's carbon emissions, which will also contribute to climate change, right? So we want to do that. In fact, now we have a citizens work group looking at how to reduce the excessive consumption of disposables, including single-use plastic bags. And we are waiting for this diverse group of individuals from various sectors to come up with their recommendations and ideas, and we encourage them to come up with holistic, right, and inclusive as well as practical solutions that take into account the needs, the concerns of different segments of the population. And we'll be happy to implement some of these recommendations where they are useful, they are practical, they are inclusive. So one of the things we also need to remember is that in Singapore, of course, many people use a single-use plastic bag to bag their rubbish and to throw into the refuse chutes. So if you don't do that, you'll be impact on hygiene and cleanliness. But having said that, what we want to do is to see how we can discourage people from excessive accumulation of excessive single-use plastic bag and other disposables. So this is something we are looking at right now. How effective is the annual tree planting in Singapore? Maybe I ask Melissa to share with you her views about this.
Well, then number one, we'll keep Singapore very clean and green, right? Because we are always known that we plant many trees. I think recently in the newspaper, there's a pledge that the government will want to build 1 million, plant 1 million trees, right? I think it also has to do with our climate change. We'll keep our temperature low. It will continue to keep our Singapore very clean and very green, because that's what we are always known for, yeah? And also, of course, CO2, etc., reduction, yeah? So that is also one of the reasons.
Well, I think that, NParks, as Melissa said, has announced that we'll be planting 1 million trees by 2030. And trees, of course, will help to take in the carbon dioxide, right? Reduce the carbon emissions. Of course, they also provide shade, and in places where there are trees and so on, not only therapeutic, not only, offer scenic views, but it has got purpose, reduce the ambient temperature somewhat, within the surrounding, and as I've said, provide shade. It also acts as carbon sink in that sense, but so there are actually many benefits, right, of having green lungs and green spaces. And in fact, NParks has been doing that throughout over the years. If you look at it, in terms of, it's not just about tree planting, it's about nature parks, nature trails. So now, for instance, in the heart of the CBD, there is a big park there, right, the Marina South area. And just a few days ago, Minister for National Development, Desmond Lee, has also announced that within Hong Kah North, there will be 2 nature parks coming up soon. One is the Bukit Batok Hillside Park. Expected completion is in 2024. And another one is the Bukit Batok Central Park, where they will also be developing sometime expected maybe 2027 and beyond. But really, these 2 parks are actually part of this ecological corridor connecting the Central Nature Park Reserve, Bukit Timah Nature Reserve, with the Tengah Forest Corridor. Right, so the 2 parks are in the middle, and then they connect. This it forms an ecological corridor, and they also offer stepping stones, right, for the birds and so on. And the whole ecological corridor will also help the fauna and flora to thrive. And indeed, our Hong Kah North residents can look forward to these nature parks. It will be rustic. I understand there might be trails, but it will be rustic, and it is really for the enjoyment of Singaporeans, and particularly, Hong Kah North residents. So you can look forward to this. And in fact, in 2022, there will be some dialogue on the Bukit Batok Nature Park with residents, for instance, to get feedback and views from residents as to the use of the park. But MND has also said, NParks has also said that the development will be very sensitive, will take into account the protection of the fauna, flora, and wildlife in the area.
I think that's a very good idea to have more parks, because if you look at the pandemic during the circuit breaker, or even after the circuit breaker, I personally noticed that there are more and more people that actually goes to the park to walk or even to exercise. So it's definitely a good idea to have 2 more parks in our Hong Kah North precinct. Yeah.
So in addition, as I've said earlier, for West Terra, West Edge, they're actually looking into community gardens, setting up community gardens. So anybody who is interested, any Hong Kah North resident who is interested, please let us know if you want to help out and you want to participate in these community gardens. Beyond these 2 RNs, others will also be looking into developing community gardens within our precinct. Because as I go for house visits, I also notice there are actually many people who have green fingers and who are really very interested in gardening. Just this week, I visited a resident at West Edge, and in fact, he has got a garden within, actually he plants, he has got what you call a high-tech farming system inside his home, and he has grown kale, which he harvests and use it for his, child, for instance, cook porridge and all that, and for himself too, and he actually shares it with his friends. So he tells me that, it's really wonderful that now we have such systems where you can even grow, do planting right inside the house in an enclosed system.
And that must be a very organic vegetables.
Yeah, I've seen it, it's really nice. And he tells me that the kale actually grows very quickly. So the minute he harvests, it grows again. So that is also part of our Hong Kah North Eco Plan, really, to have more green lungs and green spaces by getting residents to look at community gardening, as well as, of course, planting more trees and so on within Hong Kah North. But, having said all this, I think we also always have to be mindful that Singapore is a very small island, so we always have to balance development with conservation, right? And it is not a zero-sum game, so it's not like construction and conservation are zero-sum game. I think we can integrate and have a balanced approach to this. And in fact, this is what the planning agencies, Ministry of National Development strives to do when they develop towns, for instance. They also look into ensuring that there is sufficient green lungs and green spaces, and they also are mindful of the need to balance, conservation, such as the nature parks, nature reserves, the forests, the green areas with their development, and to develop it sensitively around these nature parks. Let me see, what else do we have? Any other question? Whilst we are waiting for the questions, maybe also let me share some upcoming initiatives in Hong Kah North. As I've said, we are actually looking into used book donation as well as probably food drop in that sense, right? For instance, if you have got surplus canned food, haven't reached expiry date and you actually want to donate, so we are actually looking into this. In fact, one of the RNs have actually said that they probably want to start such an initiative. So again, if you are interested, please let us know, because if we have such an initiative, it means that people can donate if they have access and they don't need it, and others who need can actually pick it up. For used textbooks, we have been doing this every year, but this year, unfortunately, again, because of COVID-19, we have not done something, this program. We have not actually launched this program for this year, but we will look at how we can actually do it in a hybrid manner, right? The used textbooks collection. Again, when we do this every year, we have the used textbook collection, and then we have a day, our environment day, where residents can come and actually pick up some of these books that they like. So it's not just used textbooks, but story books and all that. And again, if you are interested to participate, something that we are keen to implement again, organize again this year. Yeah. Besides that, as I've said, we actually have got environment ambassadors, green ambassadors that we are promoting. And our green ambassadors actually really is to go around to spread the message about green practices and to encourage residents to take up these practices. So if anybody is interested to be a green ambassador for Hong Kah North, again, please let us know, and we can organize training programs for our green ambassadors. The schools, as I've said, has an eco-bursary and eco-ambassadors, but within the community, we would like to encourage more residents to participate and become our green ambassadors. So for instance, you can actually go to the households, to the homes, to spread the message about how we can save the usage of energy, right? Utilities, water, for instance. So if you save on energy usage and water, then you can actually reduce your utility bills. So it is good for the environment, it's also good for the pocket. So energy reduction, right? Use of energy, for instance, is you can use energy efficient lights, right? Energy efficient appliances. In fact, the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment has just announced that there are grants for the 1 to 3 roomers to buy more energy efficient appliances, which you can get, right? Also for light bulbs, energy efficient light bulbs for 1-2 roomers, also you can get grants, vouchers to buy these energy efficient light bulbs and lighting systems, yeah, for your homes to reduce energy usage. And then remember, when you are not using, you are leaving the home, please switch off at the mains, because if you don't, there's still energy consumption. Try not to use the air conditioning. If you have to, please use it 25 degrees and above, 26 for instance, and not below that, because energy consumption will be even higher. Water, we are encouraging savings, all right, yeah, in the use of water. So shower 1 minute less, yeah, and that will save quite a bit of water too. And in fact, our household per capita consumption is 140 liters, and we're trying to reduce it to 130 liters now. Yeah. Okay, what other questions we have? I heard there are prizes to be won. Is this only for Hong Kah North residents? Yes. The Step Up Recycling Competition, Step Up for Sustainability Recycling Competition is only for Hong Kah North residents. But the competition itself is only for Hong Kah North residents because the prizes we award, the supermarket voucher, will be only for Hong Kah North residents. But it doesn't stop you from participating, from downloading the app, and then from recycling if you are within this Jurong sector where the public waste collector operates, right? If you are within this sector, you can download the app and then scan every time you throw the recyclables into the recycling bin or recycling chute, and you can get points to exchange for, like, Grab points and so on. So that is applicable to people living in the Jurong sector. But for the prize, the supermarket voucher, that is only for Hong Kah North residents. Okay, the next question is, will it help to increase the amount of uncontaminated recyclables if the government starts to encourage Singaporeans to sort their recyclables at source, like in Taiwan and Japan instead? Let me take a jab at this. I'll explain some of the rationale behind the current practice in Singapore, and then Melissa can add to this. This again is actually quite a popular question when we have dialogues on green practices, right? Why is it that in Singapore we do not, or the government, right, do not do not make it mandatory for residents to sort their recyclables by types when they do recycling? So don't need to sort glass, plastic, bottles, paper, and so on. Why is it that we only have this big blue recycling bin where you put all your recyclables in? We call this the commingled approach, right? That means everything into one bin. Even for recycling chute, some of our West Extension residents, the new residents, in their blocks they have a recycling chute and a refuse chute. And the recycling chute is also one chute, throw everything in, right? Recyclables, not rubbish, into the recycling chute. Why is it we do that? Well, firstly, we think that, we hope that it will be more convenient for residents to recycle. No need to sort, right? Just collect your recyclables, whether it's metal cans, plastic bottles, and all that, anything recyclable. And the blue recycling bin actually shows what are recyclable, what are not. So all that is recyclable you can put in, you don't have to sort it. These recyclables will be brought back by the recycling companies, right, in the blue trucks. Not the green ones, the blue ones, okay? So those are for recyclables. It will be collected back, and it will be sorted, all right? The different types of recyclables will be sorted out into the different recyclables back end, right, at the recycling premises, yeah? The MRF, yeah. And then the reason why we do this, not just for convenience, but also we actually reduce the amount of transportation needed. Can you imagine if I've got, we sort it and we have got recycling bins for every type of recyclables. Different trucks will come, to pick up the different recyclables. So you imagine, the transportation, the pollution, carbon emissions added to it. And we are a small country, yeah? So this is another reason why we do this. What we appeal to everybody is not to contaminate the recycling bin with rubbish, right? Refuse, really refuse. And also not to not to put in recyclables which are wet, right? So if you have your Coke cans and so on, you need to pour out everything so that it's dry. If necessary, if possible, actually better still if you just rinse it a little bit and then make sure that it's dry before you put into recycling bin so that it's not contaminated, because once it's wet, the paper cannot be recycled, for instance. And that's all we require. So in fact, last year we had citizens work group on, encouraging people to recycle more. And one of the ideas they have is about the recycling bin, right? The design of the recycling bin, and also the information put on the recycling bin. And we are actually going to pilot some new designs, right, in some estates soon. But for the moment, all the blue recycling bins now, we have got new stickers, right, pasted on the recycling bin, tell people exactly what can be recycled. So let me share with you that shoes cannot be recycled. Clothes cannot be put into the recycling bin. Clothes can be reused, right? But we don't recycle the clothes. Actually, it's reused. So you give it to the recycler, the company that actually accepts used clothes, and then they either repurpose it, or they will shred it to use it for other products, or they will resell it, right? This is for clothes. Then shoes is the same, right? You can donate it where there are donation drives, for instance. Teddy bears, toys also cannot be recycled. But you can, if it's in good condition or you clean it, you can always donate it away. Yeah. Maybe I'll stop and let Melissa add.
Okay, just to add on to the shoes, the clothes, and the soft toys. Actually, in the Step Up app, there is a part where you can look at some other locations where there's a cash for trash locations. So you can then bring down your non-other recyclable items, which is like clothing, shoes, soft toys, big items. You can bring it down, and then the recycling company can then off-take for you for recycling purpose. And then back to commingle recyclable materials in the blue bins. So basically, we are trying to make it as convenient as possible for the residents, as well as to reduce the carbon footprint. But of course, being for me is to manage all the waste companies, right? So I have all the public waste companies under my wing. What we commonly see for two things is, first, residents will tend to throw in contaminated items like Coca-Cola bottles filled with Coca-Cola, right? Or even they eat maybe curry puff, and then the paper bag, they also will throw into the blue bins. Actually, the idea is correct, the concept is correct, but the method, maybe we need to fine-tune a little bit, right? You pour away your Coca-Cola, right? And then you rinse it if possible, and then you throw it into the blue bins. And then for the paper bag, if you dispose or discard away whatever the food residue, the empty paper can be recycled. This is provided with a curry sauce and tomato sauce inside the paper bag, right? So this is a few things that we see, which we deem it as contamination. If it is all contaminated, that bulk of recyclable materials cannot be recycled. The second thing is that commonly there's a lot of residents will always say, I sort so much, I do properly already, but then your truck comes, you go and dispose it, I think you go and throw away or burn away. Actually, it's a myth, it's a misconception. Because in the past, to commonly, I would say for residents, to you a garbage truck, it looks like a garbage truck, but actually it is different. So next time, please pay attention to take a look at the truck. Although the body looks the same, but we have a slight distinction. Because all the recyclable trucks now are all in blue. So if you see that the blue trucks come, means they are all the recyclable trucks where they will off-take all the recyclable items from the blue bins, whether it's from the HDB or from the landed property or even from the shop houses, right? So then the waste collector will pick up all the commingled recyclable materials, which they will then bring it back to their own recycling facilities to sort it out, like paper into paper, plastic into plastic, metal into metal, right? And then they can then further process or further treat the recyclable materials. So this is how we are practicing at the moment.
Yeah, I would also like to add, so for the commingled recycling bin, our blue bin, currently about, contamination rate for this recycling blue bin is 40%. So really we want to reduce this because if there's contamination of 40%, that means we are able to retrieve less usable, recyclables at the material recovery facility that I was talking about, the MRFs, right? And that's the reason why our blue bins now have new labels that tell you exactly what can be recycled. And in fact, most of the single-use plastic bag, right, like the, or paper bag, right, where you put the curry puff, as long as they are dirty, they are not recyclable. The recyclable items will be like, your plastic bottles, for instance, your PET bottles, right? Your detergent plastic bottles and all that. These are recyclable, except that you need to rinse it or dry it, right? Just make sure that there is no liquid inside. So single-use contaminated plastic bag is not recyclable. Throw it into the refuse chute, right? It will be incinerated, so you will not cause problems, microplastics and so on. But having said that, let me also share that we are also looking at developing the recycling industry for packaging waste, right? Which will include this single-use disposable plastic bag, which currently really is not recyclable, right? There are factories now that do mechanical recycling of plastics, right? So these are plastics that can be recycled, like your PET bottle and all that, and then they can be turned into pellets, right? Not pellets. Resins, right? Resins, right? That can be used as raw materials for other plastic products. But for single-use disposable plastic bags, at the moment, because it's contaminated also, it's low value, we can't recycle. But we are now looking into setting up a chemical recycling plant or pyrolysis plant, where these single-use plastic bags, can be turned into pyrolysis oil, which will then become feedstock, right, for our oil refineries, chemical to make into chemicals, for instance, right? And you might have noticed recently that there was an announcement that NEA and Shell are working on a project to do research into this area to see the viability of collecting all these single-use plastics, right, plastic bags, and then turning it into pyrolysis oil. So this is something we are looking at, and in fact we do actually have a plan to also pilot a chemical recycling plant, so that instead of having to send it into the incineration plant to burn, everything, can we actually recycle? But we need to look at the viability and so on of this process. But having said that, please also know that when we do incineration, of all this refuse, actually energy is generated, which can be fed back into the grid, right? Not only to power our incineration plant, but fed back into the grid. So there is electricity generated. So it's not complete loss, but of course we also want to reduce carbon emissions, for instance, because you also need energy to burn, right? And another thing I would like to tell you is that, just like water, now we have new water, right? So when we talk about new water, it's really about closing the loop. So new water is from wastewater. So every drop of water in Singapore actually become wastewater. After you use it, you bathe, it becomes wastewater. But this wastewater can then be recycled and then can become new water, which actually now most of it is used by factories who need ultra clean, ultra pure water. So new water actually can drink, and we had bottles of new water which we distribute to the community too, but you must add some minerals in, because it's so clean you cannot just drink it like that. Yeah. But having said that, this makes us more sustainable. So I talk about COVID and I talk about sustainable development. In fact, COVID has shown us, validated the fact that we really need to put sustainable development at the core of everything we do, because we need to conserve resources. When there's a supply chain disruption, like due to COVID or other pandemic, you yourself need to have some buffer, right, in terms of resources, whether it's food, water, and some other resources, including plastics, right? You want to make masks, actually you need raw materials, some of it which is plastic based. So in fact, this is something that is really important we need to do in terms of sustainability. So as I say, new water, now we are looking at new sand. Because we burn all the refuse, then they will become incineration bottom ash. And this incineration bottom ash then is landfill at Pulau Semakau, our only landfill. So our landfill is very different from other people's landfill. Our landfill is not, you go there, you can see the rubbish, literally, the plastic bag and all that. No, this is actually burned like char, like that, IBA. Now what we're doing is we have researched to take this IBA, instead of putting it into Pulau Semakau, now we use it to become concrete aggregates construction materials but non-structural, or to pave the road. So we are in fact piloting this, and we also have developed standards, right? Construction standards for the use of this IBA for construction. And for road pavement, and we are piloting it. We have got the standards, we are piloting it, and we are actually planning to build a plant to commercialize this IBA, which we are going to call new sand. So we have new water, new sand, and just now I was talking about waste plastic turning into pyrolysis oil. We call that new oil. And in fact, food waste, right? Actually, you turn it into compost, and so on. You could call that new feed, because it can then be used to grow plants, maybe even some of these food waste can feed the fish, right? Yeah. And then so it's new feed. So we have a circular economy, right? Complete the circle and conserve as much resources. So you don't need to go and dig new resources. You can actually use existing resources. And we call this an urban mine. Singapore can be an urban mine. IBA also can use, right? Yeah. Food waste also can use. Wastewater also can use. Turn it into new resources. Yeah. Let me see what else we have, and also look at the time. Okay, we have about 5 minutes more. Let me see what other questions is on. Plastic which is not labeled with the recycling label. This one the expert will tell you. So there's a question that there are some plastic which is not labeled with the recycling label. Can we put them in the recycling bin?
Yes, you can just put, as long as it is plastics, you can just put it in. Because for the plastic labels, I think we have 1 to 8 or 1 to 7, right? So these are the labels which you can rightfully put it into recycling bins. But we do have some other plastic materials, because they are actually a mix of different type of plastics properties into it to churn out into a product. Yeah, that sort of plastics category, you can continue to dispose it into the blue recycling bins. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So I see somebody, Catherine has asked, can we have workshops on how to declutter and organize the house? Yes, definitely. There's a Maria Kanda, decluttering, right? Yeah, definitely. Somebody, Yan Yin, says support donation of children books. Yes. So let us work out the logistics, and then we can actually do that probably at the Residence Network Center. Easier for collection and so on, right? In fact, this year end coming, right? New Year, Chinese New Year, everybody is trying to clear, right? Declutter. So that's a good time to do this, which actually we do every year, as I've said. Now, let me just end by sharing the latest in terms of what the government, together with the businesses and organizations like WOMRES and other organizations are doing. Coming up next year, 2021, coming up, right? First half 2021, well, we have already announced there is an extended producer responsibility for e-waste. So next year, the take back the collection of e-waste, right, by people who sell it, put it out into the market, or the producers, will be mandatory. Okay, so e-waste collection, there will be e-waste collection points, say for instance, at some of the large retailers where you can deposit your e-waste, right? Old handphones, batteries and so on, okay? And for big electrical household appliances like refrigerator and all that, when you buy, there will be a take-back policy, so that you buy a new one and then there will be a take-back. So all these large retailers and producers, right, they will collect back and then they will recycle, treat it and recycle it properly, so that at the moment now we don't know how much e-waste, exactly how much e-waste there are, and also exactly how much is recycled. And we have put in place legislation to actually increase the recycling rate for the e-waste. Yeah, so next year you will have access to e-waste collection points. So for those who are, want to recycle their e-waste. And in fact, some of the CCs, right, we can work it out such that we can also have e-waste collection points there. So more information will be given, right, to you in this respect. And in future, as I've said, packaging waste, food waste, there will also be recycling legislation and initiatives. So I think we can look forward to more ideas from our residents as to how Hong Kah North can really go green and adopt green lifestyle, sustainable practices to make Hong Kah North an even more better environment for everybody and even greener community. So thank you very much for coming on Facebook Live and for participating in today's discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank